Welcome to another episode of the Blue Crew, a New York Rangers podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jonny Lazarus, with my good friend, Cody Frankel, and we have an awesome episode today. We interviewed New York Rangers color commentator Joe Micheletti. Had a great time talking to him. I'm not going to talk any further. I'm going to send it over to Cody, who I know is pumped up about the big Jets weekend beating the Bills. Hit me with it because I didn't watch any football yesterday.
Super Bowl, Jets, Super Bowl. Put your money in now. We just beat the best team in the league. Nothing can stop us. No Breece Hall. Who cares? No Elijah Vera Tucker. Who cares? No Corey Davis. Who cares? No, I'm just kidding. But it's not. Why not us? Why not us? It was an awesome game. I think Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner are the truth. Super exciting time for the Jets and the Giants, as a matter of fact, which is awesome. And the Bills. All three New York teams are arguably good football teams. and that's something
arguably good. I'd say they're good.
I don't think I've ever heard in my life. So no, I was on like cloud nine yesterday. Other than that, man, like don't really have much. Like we can get into Rangers talk.
Well, I do just want to say a quick congratulations to anyone that ran the marathon.
Yeah.
New York City Marathon. I know you went for a bit, right?
I did. Yeah. It's so awesome.
It's awesome.
My future brother-in-law runs like, he's an animal. Like it was, I think it was his 16th one or his 18th one. He's a beast. He runs it in, his best is like 240. That's like
insane.
Dude, he is very legit runner. He like did it for fun yesterday to help a friend pacing. I couldn't even run the marathon as it is. I can't even picture doing it for fun to help somebody else pacing time. But
no, sorry. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and we said like if they made a marathon that was 56 miles and you can rollerblade it, I'd consider doing that.
Yeah, or just a bike-a-thon. I would do that too. Like
I don't really know how to ride a bike that well.
Yeah, I could see that. I
skate better than I bike.
Yeah, I'm a pretty good skater too. But yeah, I mean, it's just an awesome, like, it's really cool kind of seeing the city just, get together and cheer everybody on. It's like a really momentous and like joyous moment for New York and all these other cities that do it, like Boston and stuff. So it's always really cool to see. But yeah,
I do gotta say one thing about it though. There's nothing scarier. What?
Nothing.
Oh, there's nothing scarier. So they were running down Bedford Ave in Brooklyn, and my mom and I had to cross Bedford to go to the subway to get to Manhattan. And crossing through the marathon, a lot of people do it. It is one of the most scary things ever. Like I literally felt like Simba in The Lion King, like avoiding the what do I call it, the stampede. Like it was so scary. Like one guy screamed like "fuck off," and I was like, "Sorry, I'm so sorry." But that was pretty insane. But yeah, the marathon, like you said, overall incredible day. Like just great for the city to come together as one, and so much joy and pride in the whole city. Like everyone's saying congrats to each other after with the, the blue like cape looking thing. A poncho. I don't really know what it is that they give out, but yeah, great day. But yeah, I think we should get into the nitty gritty. We got a lot of Rangers stuff to talk about, but before we do that, I do want to give a little ad read to Bet Online. And basketball is back, and Bet Online remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. You always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. And as your continued source for all sports wagering information, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports and events, whether that's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, or even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, all capital, to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Where the game begins.
Now let's go into some Ranger stuff. Should we start with the game against the Flyers?
Yeah, I was there. So it was
you
a
went
really
to
good
this
game.
week.
I did. And I'm going to the Yotes game on Sunday. So I told you, man, I'm fully
you're locked in.
But the game was really good game. The first period was incredibly boring, and there wasn't much of anything. It was just a lot of back and forth. And then like the second and third periods were just crazy. I mean, both goalies stood on their head. It was a huge overtime win, obviously. And I thought our team played a really, really sound game, and we dominated the game. I mean, if that wasn't for Carter Hart, probably could have been 5-0.
Yeah. That was pure and utter dominance, like
Yeah.
the entire night. And that second period was literally I think the puck might have been in the Flyer zone for 19 minutes in the second period.
I mean, it was we outshot them like I maybe 17-3 that period. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm. But just overall, like that was a good momentum builder, I thought, for what would have been a great week. And then, the Boston game happens, but the reverse retro jerseys are sick.
Might be the nicest Ranger jerseys of all time. And can I just say, you said they weren't as nice as the color scheme wasn't as nice as the other one in our group chat. You were talking shit about the color scheme.
I don't know if I like the color blue.
Dude, the color
if it was
blue,
a darker shade of blue, I would have liked it a little better, I think.
I think that color blue is incredible. It's like it just understands me.
It pops.
It understands me. Yeah.
And until I see it in person, though, I won't really judge fully because I haven't seen it in person yet.
Maybe Joe can hook me up with a jersey because they're so expensive. But no, they're awesome. I actually looked at the reverse retro schedule today because like I have to make it out to one of those games. And if you look at each one of those games, all the tickets are more expensive.
I'm sure.
But maybe the Hawks game. Like maybe the Hawks.
I'm going to that game actually.
On a Saturday?
December 3rd?
Yeah, it's on a Saturday. Wow, look at you sacrificing your weekend plans.
Oh,
for the boys.
I'm not going to that game. I'm going to the
that's what
game.
I thought.
I'm not going to that game.
Oh, you're going to 12-5?
Yeah, I'm going to 12-5.
I'm going too.
See you there?
With work. No, I won't see you there. I'm going with work. I'm going to try and
make sure to get you fired.
At all costs. Yeah, I mean, fuck you. But anyways, let's dive into a little bit further because now we got to talk about the not so pretty, which was the Bruins and the Red Wings games. I mean, the Bruins game, they just got outworked. I thought they did have a really strong second period, and they frankly dominated the second period. I thought they overpowered the Bruins on all fronts, and the first period was a little lopsided in the Bruins' favor. And then they just ran out of gas, man. And that's what we talked about a lot last year. We talked about it with Joe in a few minutes, but playing 60 full minutes of hockey is going to be so important for this team down this stretch. The season just started, but I said it last week and I'll say it again. Like, there's never too early of a time to figure things out and like get in a groove, because what you don't want to happen is what happened to the Islanders and teams like that in the past, where they fall so far behind or they're so inconsistent that like they're playing catch up in the last 20 games of the season. And now they're against the gun when it comes to making the playoffs. And that's something that I think GG and, Drury and management is really going to have to figure out with this team and find that consistency in playing like a full 60 minutes of hockey, because it's just going to be so crucial down the stretch.
I also have so many people. Like I was tweeting a lot today just about.
You tweet?
I probably spend 5 hours on Twitter a day. I don't even look.
How on Instagram, it like shows how many posts you have.
Yeah.
So like,
does it not show how many tweets you have?
It might. Like I was just gonna say, I'm not as ingrained on Twitter as I am in Instagram, but I can only imagine like you've got to be close to the 1 million mark. Like
over. I'm at like 15 a day. There's a lot of people like on Twitter today just kind of freaking out, like
about the Rangers.
Yeah, about the Rangers, like literally freaking out, and it's very strange because you look at the record and they have a winning record. I guess technically it's losing because of the overtime losses or whatever, but
they have a losing record. I mean, they're 6-7. Like, yeah,
but sure. Igor is 6-1-2.
Correct.
And that's
6-0-2. 6-0-2.
No, he lost the Boston game.
Oh, right. You're right.
Yeah, he's 6-1-2. And listen, Halak hasn't been amazing, but I don't think he's been as bad as everyone's saying.
He had a great game against Detroit, man. I was there. He had a lot of really, really important saves down the stretch of that game, and the defense let him out to dry. That's all it was. Like, offense was getting the opportunities. There was a lot of chances. They just weren't going in the third period, and our defense just, as we've spoken about, they weren't tight on the stretch run, and that was it. I mean, like they let him out to dry, left him out to dry there, and he was making the saves, and he was pissed when that overtime goal went in. Did you see he broke his stick in half, and rightfully so. Like, he deserved that win, and it's got to be really tough for him because the guy's 0-4 in his first 4 games as a Ranger, and like, this was a game he wanted to win. And Detroit is no slouch. A lot of people are forgetting this Detroit team is in second place right now, and they're 7-3-3 or 7-3-2, one of those. But they're a good team. They are a good team. They have a lot of good players. They just signed Kopp, as we know. And, they have Dylan Larkin and a bunch of really good players, young guys. So they're not a bad team, but like, this is a game the Rangers should have won with relative ease, and they didn't. So
also, the worst part about it is that the Rangers hadn't played since Thursday, and Detroit was on the second half of a back-to-back. You'd think they'd take advantage of that. And
right.
They weren't able to. So like, but back to my point before you so rudely interrupted.
Sorry.
No, just kidding. I'm not panicking at all. Like everything is pointed in the right direction. Like, and people, this is my point on Twitter. People on Twitter are so quick to just say like, put Kreider on he's a third liner. Like, I had so
that's insane. That's dumb. Sorry.
6 months ago, the guy was a guy, crazy. And now you're saying he's a third line player. Like, it's just not true. The puck's just not going in for him. And I know he didn't play great last night. I didn't watch. I was in the marathon, and I fully admit that. I don't lie about when I watch games or don't watch games. So I didn't see the game myself.
The marathon was over by 5, you nerd.
The game started at 5, and I went to a bar after because my friend took 5.5 hours to finish the marathon.
Oh my gosh, slow boy.
No offense. Shout out to Henry. You did great. But yeah, no, I didn't get to watch. But I read the articles, watched the highlights, so I didn't see how Kreider really played.
Read the articles and watched the highlights, bro. I was giving you play-by-play updates.
I don't read your texts when you. I honestly, that's such a pet peeve of mine. I hate people that text like things that happened during the game. I'm like, dude, I'm watching too. I know.
You weren't watching. You just said you weren't watching.
I know, but I'm saying in general. In general. That is actually a good point. I sound really dumb there.
Yeah, you're like special, but no, it's okay. But anyways, back to the point. Yeah, I was actually really surprised that the Rangers gave Kopp a shout out. I was like pretty surprised at that actually, because he only played like 15 games. They gave a little like thank you Copper and
they did the same things at Vetrano when the Ducks played here.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Strom got like a video. Vetrano got like the thank you Frank Vetrano.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Georgia did the same thing actually.
Yeah, but listen, they need to find this consistency. I think they'll figure it out. I'm really not worried. I think there's like some worrisome tendencies for certain players, but I don't think it's a time to panic. That being said, they just got Hedel back, which is big. Kravtsov's out, but supposedly he's fully healthy and a full go for tomorrow or today's game when this episode comes out. So that's going to be big because we need to see what this kid's got, and he needs to protect himself better. And then there's Lindgren obviously got hurt, which is a huge blow to this team, but hopefully he's okay. I mean, have they come out with anything yet about like timetable, or it's just going to be day to day? Or
I think day to day. Gauthier is also day to day, which I'm upset about. I'm becoming a big Julian Gauthier supporter.
I know you've been on him lately. I mean, that's fine, man. Like there's a few players in that bottom 6 that I would, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but like I would be fine getting rid of them and giving Goat a chance because, I guess on that note, honestly,
you just go to the lines. Yeah.
I was just going to say, let's just jump into the lines. Like,
okay,
what should our lines be moving forward? I'll let you go first, and then I'll dive into mine.
Well, this is where all the Twitter drama with me started today because I tweeted out the lineup that I would just like to see right now when they're in a scoring rut. And listen, before we even go into this, listen, the Rangers aren't scoring goals like they did. Like, you got to change things up. It's not going to.
Although they should be, aren't they ranked like second in expected?
Expected, yeah, but not in finishing.
Get some lucky bounces, baby.
But the lineup that I kind of went with for Tuesday night's game tonight, as you're listening to the Islanders, what I would just do to set the tone, and this is if Gauthier is healthy also, because he's day-to-day right now, so I don't know if he will or won't play. Probably not, but I'd have the kid line as the first line. It works. They buzz. They're all confident kids right now. Kakko is playing the best he's ever played. Lafreniere's getting a lot of chances, just not finishing. Hedel's obviously coming back from injury, but he's the most confident he's been, I think, in his career. Let them get the minutes. They bring the juice. They bring the jam every night. So I would put Lafreniere, Hito, Kako together. I'd put Kreider, Zibanejad, Kravtsov. Let Kravtsov kind of learn the ropes from Zibanejad and Kreider. They're two guys that have been around for a long time. They're skilled guys like Kravtsov. Let him feel a little comfortable playing with the older vets, superstars in the team. Then I'd go Panarin, Trocheck, Gauthier. And here's where I got a lot of hate from the Ranger fans on Twitter. You're going to throw Panarin on the third line? He's going to go from playing 20 minutes to playing 15 minutes a night. Just because he's slotted on the third line doesn't mean he's not going to get as much playing time. I'm just saying to start the game, this is what I would do. Like first line, set the tone, and then you play whoever's playing the best. Kreider wasn't playing good on Sunday. He got benched or he got moved down. Like you just play the guys that are buzzing. But I think Gauthier could benefit from Trocheck and Panarin because Gauthier has all the tools.
Gauthier.
Gauthier.
Print the shirts.
Gauthier. Well, if they're line mates, it'll work. But Gauthier has all the tools to be a good hockey player. He is. He just hasn't been able
He's
to
always
finish.
had the tools to be a good hockey
player. But if you put him with Panarin, who's one of the best passers in the league, maybe his finishing will go up a little bit. So, like, throw Gauthier on that line with Trocheck and Panarin. And then Jimmy Vesey gets his own play on the fourth line.
Before you continue?
What's
Can
up?
I just say you're a fraud before you continue? Because literally like a week and a half ago, you were tweeting like a tale as old as time for Gauthier missing.
No, that's still the case. I'm not a fraud. That's his finishing. Like he's still
you're a forever fraud
to finish.
But okay.
I
line three.
I love his game. And
line
then
three.
So line 4. No, that was line 3. Panarin, Trocheck, Gauthier. And
then
okay. Line 4, Vesey, Goodrow in the middle and play. Like I'm not gonna knock Carpenter, but having Goodrow play as the fourth line center just makes it a stronger team, I think.
Vesey,
Goodrow,
and Blay. Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, those are honestly pretty similar to me. Who was the third on your top?
It was the kid line.
No. Top line.
The kid line. I had him as the top line.
Okay. All right.
And then I had Kreider, Zibanejad, Kravtsov.
Okay. So Johnny's on something because the kid line's not going to be the top line ever.
I'm saying what I would do. I'm not saying I'm Gerard Gallant.
Okay, well, good thing you're not behind the bench. No, but I agree with a lot of your lines, the actual players on the lines. I mean, line 1, I just don't it's tough because the Kravtsov
I'm not saying
situation,
permanently, just like 5 games. Try it out.
I mean, before you so rudely interrupted, okay? No. I just don't know if Kravtsov deserves to be on the top line yet. He hasn't done anything. He gets hurt. When he has played, he hasn't been anything special. That being said, like, who else would you put on there? I don't know. So I'm fine leaving that for now. I would say Kreider, Zib, and Kravtsov. Or I could see maybe Sammy Blay. Like, he's been a complete non-factor on line 4. Some would argue he's played very poorly. I would give him a look on one of the higher up lines and play with some better players. You saw what he did last year on line 3 in the, short sample size we saw. So, like, I would give him a look on the top line and, like, even if it's for 2 games and let us see what he has. Line 2, kid line, fine. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Line 2 or 3, like, keep the kid line together, put them back. That line was
just for a bit.
No.
Yeah.
Like, leave that the line. Like, I think they would be a very, very good line together. Like, leave those 3 together. Line 2 or line 3, Panarin, Trocheck. Gauthier could be interesting, or again, Blay. Like, I think.
You can't do that.
What?
You can't put Blay twice.
No. Well, if Blay is line 2, then Kravtsov would be line 1, and if Kravtsov is line 2, then Blay would be line 1. Is what I'm saying.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? You get me? You get me?
Not really, but continue.
Okay. All right. Line 1.
Don't even break it down. Just keep going.
Line 1, we're going Kreider, Zib, and Blay. Line 2, we're going Panarin, Trocheck, Kravtsov. Line 3, we're going kid line. And line 4, we're going Goodrow at center, VC on the left, and Revo on the right, I guess, or Carpenter, whichever
so you're
one.
Taking Gauthier out?
Oh, Gauthier. Shoot, forgot about the goat. Oh shit. Okay, yeah. So Gauthier line 4. Gauthier line 4. But that being said, like, I'm not completely against giving him a shot on line 2. I just think Sammy Blay, like, I mean, you think about the Buchnevich trade and stuff like that. Like,
I think he's better.
He might be. He very well might be, but I think Sammy Blais also deserves a look on that top six. Like, even if it's for a couple games, and like, honestly, put them both on there and put Kravtsov on line 4. Kravtsov hasn't done shit yet, so like, let's see what this kid's got first. But I know,
That's not how you see what he's got, though. You can't throw him
I
on line
know,
4.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying it won't happen. That's why I'm saying it won't happen. Somebody's going to have to be sacrificed on that fourth line. It's just a fact. Who it is, like, doesn't really matter because you can do 2-2-2 and just swap out that position for the other guys each game. But I think the general basis, like, we're on the same page. I think the kid line, like, that's going to be what sparks this team, and I think they need to be put back together.
Yeah, I agree. So in conclusion, we agree.
In conclusion, we agree.
Yeah.
And I think all the same guys we agree. Like, I think at this point, yeah, Revo and Carpenter's been a really, really tough signing. He has not played well at all. And then quickly, like, defense pairs. Do we switch up the pairings? Like, I know when Lindgren's back, Fox Lindgren obviously staying together. Like, is it time to break up Trouba Keandre? Trouba, he has some form of captain announcement hangover because he has had a brutal first 13 games. I mean, he's just been like captain inconsistency. It's been very tough. He's a good player. And he needs to figure it out. And then Keandre obviously has slightly regressed. He had a really, really rough overtime against Detroit, cost the goal. But he's obviously an excellent player as well. So it's like, is it time to break those two up? Like, what do you think?
I don't know if that's gonna make anything better.
What else do you do?
I really just don't. I don't know what you do.
I know.
I think
tough.
maybe for 5 games you try it.
Yeah.
But do you make Jones Trouba the third pair or Keandre Schneider the third pair?
I know. It's tough. I think for me, Johnny, it's becoming like incredibly evident, and you might disagree, but I think for me, it's becoming like incredibly evident. Their big move at this deadline is going to be for a defenseman. I think their big move is going to be for a defenseman. I think they're like lacking something clearly in the defense. They're leaving the goalies out to dry a lot. And I think that is the one piece, like the 5-on-5, I think they will figure out. I think they'll figure out playing 60 full minutes of hockey, but you can't play better. Like, you can tighten up the defense, but you can't get better players than what we have right now. So I think, like, they're definitely going to browse that D market and see if there's some form of vet presence they can bring in, and not like a Braun either. Like, I'm talking about, a good puck moving, points producing defenseman. And I think that might be their move this year, because I think they have so much talent on offense. And like, if they trade for someone who's, a Kane or whatever, like, somebody else is going to get screwed on this team on offense. And I think we have so much talent there that, like, to me, a D guy is the move. But
no, yeah, I really don't know. For me, it's still too early. Like, I'm not. It's hard for me to like even go into like a thought right now, because I'm still just very like game to game.
Yeah,
not thinking about the deadline right now. Which I'm just also like, this is exactly what we saw last year. A little different because they're, sure, they're out shooting their opponents, and Igor stole a lot of games last year that he just hasn't necessarily stolen this year, but he's still played pretty good. Like, his numbers are not bad whatsoever. He's just not, as inhuman as he was last year.
Yeah.
So I'm not like with Igor and Net, like, I'm still very confident in this team every night. Like, even like Halak, I wasn't like not confident in them, just didn't get the bounce.
Yeah.
But I really don't, do you have anything else before we go into fan questions?
Not really. I mean, the only other thing I was going to say is, like, do you think toughness matters as much as skill does these days? Because I know we built our team around toughness, but I feel like we've lacked toughness this year a little bit. And we haven't been, I know Schneider's been producing some pretty big hits as of lately, but Trouba hasn't really done much of that. Revo's not really fighting outside of that one game.
Minnesota.
And against Minnesota. And, I mean, we have a ton of skill. The skill's there. So it's just a question to think about, like, as this season progresses.
So it's a good question because, to that, I don't think they're lacking toughness. I think they're lacking grit, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. And I know those
Yeah.
are like somewhat of the same
Who are
word.
you? Big Cat on part of my
Yeah,
take.
PMT. Honestly, I wasn't even thinking of that, but I was trying to
Can you
think of the word.
define grit, Johnny?
What do they say on PMT?
I don't remember.
Yeah. But I just think like the Rangers need to learn how to score ugly goals. I think they play too cute too often.
Yeah.
And, that's their bread and butter is making that extra pass, making that pretty play. Like they're a skilled team. Skill guys should play with skill. But to that same tune, in the playoffs, like you're not going to beat anyone with skill. You're going to beat them with grit. So I think that's what they're missing right now. And, maybe the intensity just like isn't there yet. I don't know why. Maybe, Joe talks about the shortened off season, which we'll get into, but right now I think that's really what they're lacking. Like Kreider last year was like digging for those loose pucks in the crease and burying them.
I know.
Like this year, those pucks just aren't going in. Maybe he's not as hungry. And that's what I'm seeing people say as well. Okay. So just getting that hunger and maybe the fear of not being in the playoffs. Like right now, they're still in third in the Metro. Like if they drop a little bit, maybe you see more of desperation. Like they haven't looked desperate really at all and urgent. So I think that's what they're lacking, not necessarily the toughness because they're not getting bullied by any means. Like Gauthier choked a guy in Philadelphia. That was pretty awesome.
That was crazy.
Yeah, that was great.
I think he won over a lot of Ranger fans that way.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, I think toughness is there. It's just that grit and that extra inch. That's what they're lacking, I think, right now.
All right. All right. Yeah, let's go into the fan questions.
Okay. All right. So we had honestly, this was the most we ever had as far as questions go. We had to limit it to 5 because our interview with Joe was like 40 minutes long. So here's the first one. You've been Bexed. I saw a stat that Mika has scored no even strength goals. Thoughts? I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, I mean that's a problem because Mika. I know he has a fantastic one-timer as you saw in the Detroit game, especially on the power play. But we need this guy to score on the 5v5. It's very important. He had a lot of goals last year. He's gonna have a lot of goals this year. I'm not concerned so far because he is scoring goals. They just all happen to be on the power play. But yeah, it's a little bizarre and a little worrisome that he hasn't scored yet on the 5v5. But the whole team's not scoring. And they need to score more.
So just looking it up really quick, his goals above expected at 5-5 is a minus 2.5, which is not very good, but it's kind of funny to see actually. Goals above expected, Zach Jones is 3rd on the team.
Wow.
Yeah, which is kind of a surprising stat. And Gauthier is 6th. But back to the initial question, Zibanejad, I mean, he's becoming like Ovechkin on the power play.
Yeah.
Like
he's like automatic.
I don't want to knock his 5-5 because his power play production is incredible. That one-timer last night in the Detroit game, money. But as far as 5-5 goes, like obviously, you want to see him have some more success, but like we've said a million times, like Zibanejad is the streakiest goal scorer we've ever seen. So, once he does get going at 5-5, I think it's going to explode. Like, I don't think there's any doubt that Zibanejad's scoring 30 goals this year, right? Like that's a lock.
It's got to be
7 already.
Yeah, I mean, yes, yeah, no, he's scoring 30 goals for sure.
So once he gets,
that's
a couple
7 power play goals is crazy.
Yeah, once he gets a couple 5-on-5, he'll start to pick it up. But I do think it's a little alarming. It's not like panic mode, but he'll get there. Actually, no, I think he has a shorthanded goal, right, against Tampa. That was shorthanded the first game.
Yeah.
Because he has 6 power play goals and 1 shorthanded.
Still not 5-on-5.
Yeah, still not 5-on-5. But yeah, no, like listen, Mika, as we all know, is streaky. So I think once he gets one, they'll come in bunches. But you want to go to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is M.Crank10. Is there something Carpenter is doing that I don't see that is justifying his place in the lineup?
No, there's not, because he doesn't deserve a spot in the lineup right now. He's really not playing great. He reminds me a lot of like Dryden Hunt-esque, where he's just like a body out there. Maybe he's in favor with Gallant. Maybe Gallant's a big fan of him. He was a good player in Calgary. Was he a point producing monster or anything like that? No, but he was a good 4th liner in Calgary. There's no reason to think he like can't figure it out in New York. He's not that old of a player. I just don't think he's really done anything yet. Similar to Sammy Blais, like just hasn't been the player we've expected to date so far. And maybe he needs a shift in line mates. Maybe he needs something, but I'll tell you right now, he's not going to be playing on the top nine. So he's got to figure it out on that fourth line, dealing with fourth line minutes. And if he doesn't, he's going to get benched. I mean, Gautier's outplaying him right now. I don't think he deserves a spot over VC, and he definitely doesn't deserve a spot over Gaudreau. So he might be an extra forward moving forward. We'll see.
I'd say the one thing he does that fans might not notice as much is the penalty killing.
He's
He's
what they signed him for. He's good. Yeah.
He's a really good penalty killer. And also, maybe it just benefits the team to have two, somewhat centers in the fourth line, because Gaudreau is also somewhat of a center, so helps them defensively a little bit. But the Rangers PK has been pretty good this year. They're 10th right now. They're at 82.1%. So Carpenter does contribute to that, and penalty kill is obviously super important. So, maybe that's one area that doesn't really go so noticed because it's not the prettiest thing, but he definitely contributes to that end of the ice. So there's a positive. Yeah, I mean, as far as obviously offensive output, there's not much, but that wasn't expected, So it's the little things like that. But any other thought on that?
No.
All right, so this one is pretty much from everyone. Why is Halak playing, and will Domingue get a look?
Yeah. I mean, do you want to start on that one?
I don't think Halak's necessarily playing all that bad. I mean, his numbers you can see on the screen right here. He's got
he had one very bad game
percentage and a 3.48 goals against. Yeah, and he had one really bad game against the Blue Jackets. But his game against Winnipeg, it was a 1-1 game with 5 minutes left, and the Rangers didn't have their guy in front of the net and
left him out to dry.
It was Sam Gagner who found the rebound. And then the game against Detroit, Halak plays a pretty strong game, and rightfully so. I'm just checking the stats here. I didn't watch, so I assume he played a pretty good game. But the team comes up short in front of him. So listen, Halak is a good goalie. He's a capable goalie. He's going to find his game at some point.
You missed the game against Isles.
What's up? Oh yeah, he played pretty good in the game against the Isles as well.
Yeah, that was another game where the defense wasn't. I mean,
the first goal was a lazy, not back check because they had the puck, but they cheated on offense and left them out to dry.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you completely on this one. I think the game against Columbus was pretty abysmal. But other than that, I think he's played fine against Detroit on Sunday. He should have won that game. That was purely the team got lazy. They ran out of gas and left them out to dry. There was zero offense generated against the Islanders. And then against Winnipeg, like you said, it was a 1-1 game until the very end. And a lot of it wasn't on him. Those three, I know there's empty net, whatever, but a lot of those goals were not on him. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if Domingue would be much better. To that note, can he get a look at some point? Yeah, maybe they'll give him a look. But I think, I think Halak, the Detroit game is a very good game to build on. So let's see how he performs next. That being said, that brings me to the point of why isn't Igor playing more? It's been 13 games. Halak should not have 4 games under his belt already. And I think the load management aspect, I think, is a little ridiculous at this point. I think Igor should have played 11 out of these 13 games. I know they had 2 back-to-backs, but Igor played one of them. So that's just the thing I'm kind of confused about. Why he's only played 9 out of the 13 games, but I don't think it's really on Halak in terms of playing bad outside of that one game.
I do think the Rangers also have 13 back-to-backs this year.
Yeah, so, listen, I'm sure there's reasoning and stuff, but it's 13 games into the season. Igor just had 5 months off of playing May. Their season ended in
June. End of June.
First week of June, whatever. June. All right. Still 5 months off. We're in November, buddy. Yeah, I know math is hard. But anyways, thanks for fact checking there. Yeah. I mean, listen, he had a lot of time off from playing against teams in the NHL, and I think he should be playing more. I know there's that durability injury concern, but this guy is top 3 goalie in the league. You got to let him play more. And I'm curious to see kind of the path forward here. So,
Yeah, I think Igor, I think his number by the end of the year will be 55 games. I think he'll play around that. 55, 58, I would say.
should be playing 65 games, man.
It's a lot. It's a lot. That doesn't really happen anymore.
Well, make it happen. All right, next question.
And the last question we're going with this week, this is a fun one from our friend Kelsey, K_cat. Cody versus Jonny in the New York City Marathon race. Who's finishing first?
I would absolutely smoke you.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't think anyone that like knows the two of us would ever answer me. I'm giving you that one for sure. I don't have it in me to run that marathon. I mean, and it's funny because there was points in yesterday where I'm like, man, like that just looks like the coolest accomplishment ever. Like I just wish I could do it, but like there's no way I could.
I right now I couldn't do it. There's no chance. Like, and I mean, you know me, I'm a very fit person. Like I work out all the time, but like I don't think I could do it. I would need to train like rigorously. And I think anybody does. Too.
Cody texts me at 6 a.m. every weekday, just crushed a killer workout. And I text him 2 hours later. What's up, dude? Just woke up.
Actually, that's a lie. Cause today you literally texted me, hey bro, I'm at the gym. And I sent you a picture of me at the gym. So it was a little virtual gym sesh. But yeah, I mean, on that note, like you want to kick it over to Joe?
Yeah. Send it over to Joe Micheletti. You guys are going to love him, obviously. This week on the Blue Crew, we're very happy to welcome on a man that needs no introduction. He's been the color commentator for the Rangers since 2006, arguably saved the franchise because the Rangers weren't very good until you joined the broadcast. But we're really happy and really honored to welcome on new friend of the show, Joe Micheletti. Joe, what's going on? How you doing?
Hey, guys. Great to be with you. Thanks for the introduction. I didn't
really
realize
good to have you. What's up?
I wish you would have told me.
What?
That I saved the franchise. I didn't know that.
Well, I mean, up until 2006, I was born in 96, and I don't remember them making the playoffs in the late 90s. So my first recollection of the Rangers in the playoffs was that first round in 2006 when they got swept to the Devils, which wasn't great, but kind of led to better things later on.
The Bro Doer years weren't too great for me. But Joe, I think it's obvious, but if not, I wanted to thank you on behalf of all Ranger fans. You and Sam are two of the best in the game, if not the best, and have obviously given all of us so much happiness. But that being said, I'd love to just kick things off and, hear about your path from the NHL playing to behind the bench to the booth. And, you worked for the Blues, the North Stars. I don't know how the Islanders let you come to us, but yeah, I mean, I'll open up the floor here.
Well, I'll try not to bore you too much. First off, I would say that for me, I look at what's happened to me since I finished playing, and not many people have been luckier than me and more fortunate. I mean, I think about all the Hall of Famers that I've had the chance to work with and make my job and make me better than what I really am. And you can start with Sam. This is our 17th season together, and we try to have a lot of fun. We try to keep it in some sort of perspective when it can get off the rails a little bit. And it's been such a pleasure, working with Sam and we have a great crew at MSG, from our producer Chris Ebert to Larry Roth. I think is the best director in all of hockey, and right on down. These people. They treat each game like it's something special, and that's how they work at it. And that's why a lot of the people I work with on our crew, they've done Olympics and national games and you name it. They have just tremendous experience. So working back from there, I look back when I finished playing, I was kind of not sure where I was, what was next, and ended up getting into the investment business with a company called E.F. Hutton, which you guys weren't even born yet. They had great commercials back in the days.
I was 93. I'm a little older than Johnny, so maybe I was born.
Yeah, but my break, I guess you could say, is that when I was doing that, the voice of the Blues at the time was a guy by the name of Dan Kelly, who was also the voice of Hockey Night in Canada, USA Hockey back in the day on CBS when all the national games for the NHL were on CBS, and Dan was the voice. if you remember the great goal that Mario Lemieux scored in the '87 Canada Cup against Russia, Gretzky drops it to Lemieux. Lemieux scores. That's Dan Kelly. That's his voice.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember the Bobby Orr goal against St. Louis when he's flying through the air, that's Dan Kelly. So he was the voice in St. Louis, and so Dan became a client of mine when I was in the investment business. And then he called me one day and he said, "Listen, I need somebody to do radio with me." So I said, "Okay, so you're not going to make much money, but he said, well, I think we can have fun. I think you could be good at it." And so I decided to do it. And that's how I got my break from Dan Kelly back in 1985. That got me into radio with him.
Wow.
And I learned from somebody that was, as good as it gets, and taught me about this job and was very, very honest with me about things. So he was the one that really got me started. And then that's when I got lucky in '94. I got a call out of the blue from Turner Sports asking me to work the Winter Olympics in '94, and then that led to ESPN and ABC, and then the national games for Fox and NBC and the rest of them, and a bunch more Olympics. So, but Dan Kelly gave me a chance, and I had zero experience, but he thought we could have some fun and learn. I learned a lot from him, and I'll be forever grateful.
So, Joe, I actually recently started doing color commentary myself. I did a couple of UMass games a couple weekends ago, and I'm starting to do a little bit more in the college ranks. But, for me, my first 2 games, it was eye-opening because I kind of thought it was going to be really easy, just talking the game. I know it. I love it. I breathe it. And Colby Cohen's actually been a huge mentor of mine, if you know Colby at all.
He's a great guy.
Great guy, and he's helped me out a ton. But just from you, from where you started, you just said you had no experience to your 17th year with Sam now. What are your biggest takeaways from doing color commentary? Because a lot of people sit there and watch TV and think, hey, I could do this,
right.
But it's not an easy job. So how has your preparation changed and just your overall mindset on the game?
Yeah, it was interesting. It's really interesting you say that because I had the same issue. So when I was living in St. Louis at the time, and we had Jack Buck, Bob Costas, Dan Deerdorf, just to name a few, and of course Dan Kelly. Mm-hmm. They were all doing national sports, football, baseball. Costas, of course, was hosting everything. and back in those days, on KMOX radio, which was a 50,000 watt station that people could get all over the country, they used to have a sports open line from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock every 5 days a week. And these guys would host this. And it was fabulous to listen to them. And then you listen to them do their jobs when when Jack Buck was actually on the air with Cardinal Baseball or doing CBS football, baseball, Deerdorf the same way. And I was like you, because I just sat back and thought, well, it's all they do is they talk when it's their time to say something. And when Dan Kelly hired me, and he said, we'll have a chance to talk about this at some point in time before we do our first game. Mm-hmm. So the first game I showed up to was actually a preseason game. Thank God. And I didn't have a pencil on me. I didn't have a sheet of paper. I didn't have anything. And I thought, just like you did, well, when it's my turn, I'll just say something. And so Dan Kelly had this great call. His great goal call. As he shoots, he scores. It was a classic call. And we're doing a preseason game, our first game. And about 7 minutes into the game, the Blues score. Dan makes his call. And about halfway through his call, I said something. And he looked at me. He didn't wear a headset. Dan used to hold the microphone and put one hand over his ear. That was the old way. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he gave me this look. And he sent it to commercial, and he turned to me and he says, "If you ever do that again, you're fired." I said, "Do what?" That was the early part of my learning experience. So, but what I learned is, and I think this is really important for anybody that wants to get in the business or starts in the business, is I really started focusing on analysts, not just in hockey, but in every sport. And so now I'm watching football, and I love all the sports. So I'm watching, but I've got a keen eye to listening to all these different analysts. But the most important thing that happened to me was Dan Kelly. Mm-hmm. We would do a game, and especially when we were on the road, and we would always go out for dinner afterwards, and we would have a beer.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe a few beers too.
and then Dan would say something like this, and this actually happened. He said, "Boy, you really embarrassed yourself tonight."
Oh wow!
And I said,
"Wow."
I said, "I did." And he said, "You did." I said, "Well, how did I do that?" And he says, "I'll tell you how you did it." He says, "First period, it was a game actually with the Devils, mm-hmm. Devils and the Blues, and I'll never forget it." So he said, "Devils went on a power play in the first period, and I asked you about the Devils power play, and you gave me nothing." I said, "Okay." He said, "Then I asked you about a player on the Devils, and you gave me nothing." And then in the second period, so this was our conversation.
Wow. Yeah.
And I said, "Okay." He said, "When I ask you something about the other team," he said, you gotta know what you're talking about. You gotta know about the players. You gotta know about the team. You gotta know about their power play. You gotta know what they do. You gotta know how they play." I said, "Okay." And so this was early on.
Yeah.
So then I start thinking, okay, so now how am I going to do this? How am I going to learn? And this was back in the mid 80s. And so that forced me to start talking to coaches, introducing myself, saying, here's what I do. Could I just you have time for a couple of minutes? And that's how I got started. Mm-hmm. And I found that even though coaches in a lot of sports, they're careful with what they say, over a period of time, when people start trusting you to talk to you, and this goes for players too, because I started doing the same thing with players, then they'll start giving you information, mm-hmm. because they know that they can trust you, and you're going to use the information. And believe me, over the years, I got a lot of information that I've never used on the air. I've never told anybody else, because it can be personal. Yeah. And I will ask the player if I can use it. I'll give you an example. So a few years ago, when Washington won the Stanley Cup against Vegas, Kenny Elber and I are doing the national broadcast on radio. Mm-hmm. So we would always go to the team practices on the off days. And so the game was in Washington, and I can't remember if it was I think it was game 3 in Washington. I think they started in Vegas.
They did.
Yeah. They did, right? Mm-hmm. So it was after game 3, and right at the end of game 3, Brooks Orpik is in the corner with Jonathan Marchessault, and he got incensed about something, and he went after Marchessault, and the game ended, and there was a little scrum, and Washington wins. The next day, Kenny and I go to the practice, right after practice, and of course there's media all over the place in the final, right? So they're all going after Ovechkin and mm-hmm. all the other stars. So Brooks Orpik is sitting over at his stall, and I'd known Brooks for a long time. And so I went over to him and I said, "What happened last night at the end of the game?" And he took off his glove. Oh, and he said,
"Yeah.
The tip of my finger got chopped off."
I remember that.
Said,
"Wow.
So?" Yeah. He said, "Yeah." I said, "So obviously that's what drove you crazy." Mm-hmm. He said, "Yeah." I said, "Can I use that on the air tomorrow?" He said, "Go ahead." Kenny and I were the only ones that had it. Mm-hmm. Nobody else had it. and we were the first ones to put it on the air. But so my point being is that with Dan Kelly telling me that you're supposed to, know all this stuff, the only way to do it is you can't just read it in newspapers, and it's not just in the league stats that they give you. You have to establish relationships with coaches and players in order to, I think, that's just my own opinion, to try and do this job so that maybe you're a step above. I think it makes you better. Let's put it that way. So that's what happened. So Dan, and on the other side, I remember a game we did in Toronto, and Dan Kelly loved Chinese food. And even though the restaurants would close, Dan had great cachet, especially in Canada, because he's from Ottawa, hockey night in Canada. He would call the owner of this little Chinese restaurant and say, "We're coming after the game. A few of us are coming over after the game." So we go over there and do the same thing. Sit down, order a beer, and then he'd give his critique if it was time to give one. And in this particular instance, he said to me, he starts shaking his head. He says, "God, we were so effing good tonight." And I said, "We were?" And he said, "We were great." I said, "Why?" And then he started giving me examples. He said, "I hit you with this." And he said, "Bang." He said, "You were right on it. You were right on it." And then the next one, he said, "I'm right on it. And this happened. You're right on it." So that's how I learned. But I learned, and I don't think that happens much these days anymore because, people are really sensitive. But I sat there and he said, and he was so critical, positively and negatively, that's how I learned a business. And that's how I learned to work.
Yeah.
So it's how I learned to work. Because he said to me one time, he said, "You know what? If you're gonna go on the air, and if you're gonna keep saying," and I wasn't saying that, but he told me this early to prevent me from doing it. He said, "If you're gonna go on the air and if you're gonna say, well, when I played, back when I played, back when I played," he said, "that lasts, and guess what?" He says, "Nobody cares. You're gonna get to a point, nobody cares. They're tire you." So he said, "You got to work at this. And you got to make it a new profession." And so, he helped me think of this in a different light. And he said, "You can use all your experiences of playing and coaching and doing all this. You can use all those to enhance our broadcast, but you gotta work at it in other ways." And so it's a long answer to your Johnny, to your,
it was a great answer
question, but I thought it deserved some time because he in particular took the time to see if I was going to run for cover or say, "Okay, I'll show you." And that's what he wanted. And he was very kind to me. And God rest his soul, he died too young when he was 54 years old. And one of the great voices, I think he's the greatest voice that ever broadcast hockey. But he took the time to teach me and see if I wanted to work to try and try to get better.
I'm not very sensitive, so if I could send you the game film, you could rip me to shreds. It'd be an honor.
Well, there's people that do that. We've done that. So anytime.
Yeah, that's great. Transitioning to the Rangers a little bit, they've obviously shown some inconsistency to start the season at 6-4-3. Being so ingrained in each play of each game, what do you think this team needs to do to find that consistency and then obviously build on it as a recipe for success moving forward?
Well, if you can, the easy thing to say is if you can look back to what they did in the playoffs last year and how they started the season, that first game against Tampa Bay, and Gerard Gallant was talking about that today. He said, "That's what I'd like to get back to that."
Yeah. And
when you think back to that game, and then even the subsequent games after that, they were playing at a high level, and you're thinking, "Yeah, this is a good team." There's a reason why some people picked them to win a Stanley Cup because of this. So they've gotten a little sloppy. They've gotten they have they have these stretches now where they play a good period, bad period, okay period.
Right.
And instead of burying teams when they're ahead, they let teams back into it. Are they a better team than they were a year ago? I think they are. I mean, if you think back to this team, just go back to the first half last season. If it wasn't Igor Shesterkin, they would not have made the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he gave them a chance with a new coaching staff, a lot of young players, a new defensive system. And while all that was going on and they were giving up, as high a quality scoring chances as any team in the league, Igor Shesterkin was there winning games for them and allowing them a chance to grow. And then in the second half of the season, they did a lot of things that were really good. So they went into the playoffs playing some pretty good hockey. So I just think that, some of the individuals, you can look at individuals, are not playing all that well during this stretch. They were earlier. I think the goaltending for the most part has been pretty good. I mean, Shesterkin hasn't been as great as he was to start last season.
Right.
But he still has been pretty good. Halak's game against Detroit, he deserved better, but he hasn't gotten much help from his team when he's played. And so that leads to, and I think there's some other things that we have to remember. So Chris Drury made a couple of great trades last year. One right before the trade deadline to get Frank Vetrano. Another trade, I think it was right at on deadline day to get Andrew Kopp. Mm-hmm. He also added, a veteran defenseman. And these guys came in and really contributed, and these are players that have been around a little bit, mid-20s to late 20 guys that had specific skill sets that the Rangers needed. Vetrano, they needed a shooter, right? And Vetrano became that, and it helped change the dynamic of the team. Andrew Kopp became a player that could do just about anything for you and could play up the lineup, down the lineup, kill penalties, take faceoffs, play the wing, either wing, and he was really important to this team. And so you lose a couple of players like that. And even Braun on defense, not a flashy guy, but it's been around. His career has been playing against top players in the game and
tons of playoff experience. Yeah.
And so now you lose those players, and you're hoping that these young players that we've been watching for the last 2, 3, 4 years take another step. And they have. I mean, the way those kids grew last year in the playoffs, all of them got better. Even though Capo Caco was a healthy scratch, he got better. Mm-hmm. And you can see it this year.
He's looked amazing this year, yeah.
He is, he's got confidence, he's stronger, he feels he believes in he belongs in the league. And so, and Lafreniere the same way. Filipino, I think, is maybe going to make the biggest difference if he can stay healthy, because he no longer is a player that's tipping his toe in the water to test out the waters of the National Hockey League. In the playoffs last year, he dove in. Mm-hmm. He dove in and he said, "It's time. It's time for me." They tried to intimidate him. He wouldn't be intimidated. He wanted the puck. He went after the puck. He didn't want to give it up. And so he's been like that this season. And unfortunately, he missed 6 games with the injury. So, and now we expect these players to step up and take the place of Vetrano and Kopp. Their production is not as high, so the team is not as high scoring. They're not getting as much production from their third and fourth lines, and that's partially because Hedl has been hurt. And so you put all that together, and if your top guys have an off game or 2 or 3 like they've had recently, then it's going to be, it's going to have an effect. And so they need to start scoring more at 5-on-5, I think, to be successful.
Well, to that point, it's the same issue they had last year prior to the deadline. That was the storyline, right? It was the 5-on-5 scoring, and that's why Drury made those moves that you just talked about. So it is evident, I know Cody loves to talk deadline stuff here, I'll kind of tee you up, Cody. Because
No, I was gonna say you're right, but also I think playing, and it's the same thing this year, playing 60 full minutes of hockey is an incredibly important thing. That we saw they ran out of gas against Detroit yesterday. They ran out of gas against the Bruins. So I think it's just playing a full 60 minutes of hockey, and then the 5-on-5 too.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that happens, and sometimes I think we use this as an excuse, but the facts bear this out. Generally, when you see those teams that go well into the playoffs and into June, when they come back for the following season, and it's a short off season, and it takes, especially if they've had injuries, and these players have to take time off, and now they don't. The teams that miss the playoffs or lose out in the first round, they get an extra 6 weeks or 2 months to heal up, to train, to do all those things. It takes teams some time. I mean, Colorado's not off to a great start.
Mm-hmm.
They're not off to a great start.
Yep.
Florida's okay. They've just been okay. I think they're 6-4, or 6-5. They're
Penguins
okay.
are struggling.
The Penguins have lost 7 in a row as of this discussion we're having.
Mm-hmm.
St. Louis
is terrible.
was tied for the fewest points in the league, and there were experts that picked them to win the Stanley Cup.
I picked them to win the division.
It doesn't mean
and the Penguins. Don't forget that.
And the Penguins. And it doesn't mean they won't turn around, because there's certainly time left to find your game. And Washington's hurt. Mm-hmm. A lot of people thought Ottawa was going to be a lot better, but they're still young. Mm-hmm. Ottawa's still a young team. So anyway, I think that there's some legitimacy to that. But I also think that it's a good team. Yeah. I do think it's a good team. I think they've got a lot of different elements to their team. Fox is still one of the best players in the game. So they've got a lot of pieces that I think are going to bear fruit. I mean, it's a good hockey team that's just going through a little rough spot right now that they're going to have to find a way to get themselves out of.
To that point, I could easily say in my lifetime, this is the most talented roster the Rangers have had, top to bottom, I think. Yeah. And I think you can agree since you've joined MSG and the Rangers. But when you think back to that 2012 to 2015 timeframe, obviously there's a lot of good players in that window also, Gaborik, Nash, Hank, obviously, in net. When it comes to the year 2024, let's say, do you think the 2021 to 2024 Rangers overachieve what that group did? Or do you think it'll kind of be a similar output to what they accomplished?
Yeah, it's a good question, Johnny. This league is so difficult. And just look this year at the teams that have been not very good for a long period of time. I mean, look across the river to the Devils. Mm-hmm. The Devils, you knew at some point that those kids were going to grow up and mature physically and mentally, and they were going to just keep getting better. They needed goaltending. They've improved in that area. They needed to improve their defense. They did it, and now they're a good team. And so your competition has also, I think, gotten better. You've got Buffalo, and even Montreal's better this year, and Ottawa should be a better team. So it's going to be more and more difficult to win. But the other thing is this. Not a lot of people expected the Rangers to make the playoffs last season and or thought, well, maybe they'll get in. Maybe they have a chance to get in. So the Rangers, when they went into games, there were still quite a few teams that didn't feel like they had to play their best hockey to beat the Rangers. This year's different because of what they did. And again, I think there's still a lot of people that think that they should be a real good team, and I think they are. But there's a different mindset. I mean, when you're going to play against somebody that can embarrass you if you don't play hard, then I think that's the way teams look at the Rangers. And so now the Rangers have to be sharp. If they're not sharp, then they're going to lose some of these games. And I think that's part of what they're dealing with, and part of the growing up period they're going through also.
No, those are some very, very good points. And I think I just have one more for you, Joe. And Johnny, I guess one more each. You cool with that? Gallant is obviously a big time players coach, and he can often be tough on his players. You saw that on Sunday against Detroit with Kreider getting demoted to the fourth line there. And from a coach's perspective, I completely understand trying to shift things around to give your team that edge. But I was curious, as a former player, do you think when something like that happens in the NHL, because it often does that boost or hurt a player's confidence? And like, if it does hurt a player's confidence, how do you kind of move forward and like build on that?
I think that if you're honest and coaching, coaching has changed an awful lot, and the way you have to handle players nowadays, because players are more sensitive than they used to be. I mean, we didn't sensitivity back in the day wasn't there. I mean, it was just a hard-nosed approach. This is what you're going to do, and this is how you do it. If you don't do it, you're gone. It's different these days, and I think different for the good, because I think communication is good. And so when you have that type of trust, which the players have in Girard, they know he's not going to call them out, because everything he says critically is about the team.
Right.
And he did make that change, and I like the changes he made. I think it was fair. And that line change that the Zibanejad line made that led to the second goal for Detroit was brutal. It was about as lazy and whatever else you want to call it as you can be. And those poor players coming on the ice that got a minus, which was
the worst.
which was Panarin and Trocheck and Lafreniere, I believe. It wasn't fair. So, but he doesn't harp on that. He doesn't harp on that. Yeah. But he also didn't let it slide. So he did not let that slide inside the locker room when he met with his team, whatever film session. He doesn't have a lot of film sessions. He has them when he thinks he needs them. I don't know if he had one with that. I don't know if he needed to, but he gets his point across. And so I think that's why over the years, players have loved playing for him, because he's got a hard-nosed edge to him, but he's going to protect his players as long as there's a give and take between the two. So I liked what he did. I actually thought he should have kept Kreider on the bench to start overtime, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, he went out there for the first shift.
But he's, again, you always have to remember one thing: winning. That's the thing. Hold your grudges and take care of that later on. And so he just thought that gave him the best chance of winning. And so, again, that's why he's a respected coach.
I loved what he said about Kreider to the media too, just holding everyone accountable. And your best players have to be your best players, and that's not an excuse for the third, fourth line, but
it wasn't just him.
Yeah.
We always point out, Chris Kreider went to the fourth line last night. Well, he did, but we switched a lot of the lines around. And today at practice, you mix and match your lines a little bit, because I want everybody to be better, not just Chris Kreider. He's got to be one of our leaders, and he's got to pull his weight instead of going the other way. And that's what we need from our players, our leaders, our top players. They got to lead our team when we're not playing as well. And and that's not giving the young guys an excuse, or giving the third and fourth line an excuse, but they got to start at the top. When you're real good, our best players got to be our best players, and they got to pull the other guys with them. And I'm not happy with the way we're playing, and I think it's going the other way, and we got to change it.
I thought it was great. And Joe, my last question is kind of a two-parter, because I'd be damned if I didn't ask about you and Sam in the booth. You kind of told some stories about you and Dan, your time in the booth with him. Through your 17 seasons with Sam, is there one game that you both look back at and kind of laugh at that you maybe weren't on the same page, or any funny story from the booth that you would share with fans?
17 years is a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any one game that. Listen, I think we understand that that both of us miss things and we make mistakes, and neither of us try to. We try to get everything right with our crew and with the game. We try not to miss anything that goes on behind the play. So I think what we've learned to do over time is kind of laugh it off, and just accept the fact that we try to remember that this is a sport, and we're also in the entertainment business. And so to think that a sport and a particular game is more important than what's going on in the world, and not just COVID the last few years, but there's a lot of people that have a lot of issues going on, that we don't know about, the family issues. And the Garden of Dreams is a really great example of putting us all in. If you for some reason need a reminder about perspective in life and that kind of thing, we meet these Garden of Dreams kids that it's not fair what they've had to go through and continue to go through, and to see them fight and turn their lives around and have the Garden of Dreams and everybody that runs that organization provide them a chance to do that. So we look at this as it's a sport. We work hard to try and do a good job, and we screw up. I screw up more than Sam, but we try to keep it in the right perspective and try to get it right the next time, or correct ourselves. So there isn't a particular game that we look at, because we kind of judge every game as the next one. Let's try to be better this next one than we were last game, and that's the way our group has always done it. So I wish I could be more specific with you about that. There probably been too many. If you ask me a question, which game were you where you guys didn't screw up? That I don't know if I could come up with that either.
The second part of that, Cody touched on it, right away, that you and Sam have left such a good impact on all Ranger fans just the last 17 years. And has there been a fan or maybe a player interaction that you've had where you were just kind of moved in your time with the Rangers? Because, like Cody said, we have so many memories, like whether it's at a bar listening to you guys, on the couch with our parents listening to you guys. Yeah. Is there any opposite, just like feeling of reward in that sense?
I take the train to games, before the game and after the game, and walking through Grand Central and the subways, and so they're so passionate about their team, and when people come up and say something nice or want to take a picture, they have their kids with them and want to take a picture, and which I've always found. I grew up in this little town in northern Minnesota, one of 9 kids, and we grew up in this little 2-bedroom house, and my parents were very strict as far as how you should treat people and how you should act, and so like it's never an issue for me if somebody wants to take a picture with me. I mean, okay, and so it's never an issue, but people sometimes hesitate to do that, and I sometimes wonder why, because it's never a problem. But they're so kind, and so love their team, and it's just it's great. They're just I just run into an awful lot of nice people, and I'm fortunate for that.
Yeah. Well, Joe, we love you. Bottom line, but thank you so much. I mean, this was great, and it was great to hear your perspective.
So, if you can still hear me, I will just say it was great being on with you. Thanks. Yeah. I hope we do it again sometime, and I'm sorry this took so long.
No, thank you, Joe. And next time you see your nephew Alex, give him a hug for me. I gotta give a shout out to Alex. We want to thank Joe Micheletti so much once again. Such an honor to talk to him. We've been listening to him for 17 years, and just being face to face with him is such a cool feeling. Cody,
I mean, what a great guy! Like, you could just tell he is a wonderful person, like an absolute delight. He reminds me of, like, I don't know, maybe he could be my third dad outside of my dad and my father-in-law. He just reminds you of just a super nice guy. What he said about people coming up to him for pictures and like
Partner
he's always,
dreams.
yeah, it's just seems like a great guy. Big thanks to him. And we love him. We love Sam. Hopefully we can get him on soon as well. But that being said, man, like let's go into our draft, and then we can go into this week's slate and some predictions.
Yep.
So this week's draft, we're gonna go through favorite type of dish, which I think is a good one. We can get a lot of like good stuff here. You went first last week, so I'm gonna start this week. And I'm anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge Mexican cuisine fan. It's my favorite cuisine. So right off the bat, there's a lot of Mexican dishes that I like, but I'm gonna have to go the classic and just go with a good old like chicken and steak quesadilla.
I love steak. I love steak
with a side of chips and guac.
I'm gonna go. I don't know if this counts, but I'm gonna go with dumplings.
I know you're such a big dumpling guy.
Does that
Why wouldn't
count?
that count? Absolutely, man.
I don't know if it's a dish. It's more of a.
It could be a dish for you. We can make it a dish for you.
Dude, like literally, me and my happiest moment. If I'm on the couch on a Sunday night, like watching sports with like 20 to 25 dumplings, I am the happiest person alive.
Okay.
I love dumplings.
Okay. Number 2, and I'm gonna go with like my second favorite cuisine. All right, number 2, lamb kebabs.
Oh my god, I love lamb kebabs or lamb chop. Same thing, kind of.
Same thing, kind of. Yeah, same thing, kind of. I mean, for me, like lamb is probably my favorite type of red meat, like more so than steaks. Like I'm such a big lamb guy, shawarma, all that stuff. So that's number 2.
I will actually endorse that. I love lamb so much. I like wish. Oh my god, dude, imagine if like Chipotle had lamb. That'd be sick. They had the brisket for a bit, which was
that's
so
a good
good.
one.
But the lamb would be insane. I'm gonna go. I think I'm just gonna classic chicken parm. Nothing beats a good chicken parm.
Solid.
Yeah.
I'm gonna build with my last pick. I'm gonna build on your Italian dish, and I'm gonna go with classic penne alla vodka.
So good. I love penne alla vodka.
So good. I had it on Friday. It was chef's kiss.
Yeah. I'm starving. I've never been to that Carbone. I heard their penne alla vodka is like
we went to Carbone. They had like a pop-up in the Hamptons. It was not this past summer, but the summer before that. It was pretty good. Yeah, they're obviously known for their penne vodka. Yeah. It was good.
I gotta get there. I'm going to that while we're on the topic of food, I guess. I'm going to that Kyu for the first time on Wednesday. KYU, the Asian place.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No, I haven't been.
No. Oh. Well. All right.
I've been to Gayu Kaku.
I love that place. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go with before we get off topic here, my last pick. And this is like my favorite thing to do when I'm drunk, like after a day drink. I've done this 3 times since I've moved to Brooklyn.
What are you gonna say? Slice of pizza?
No, I order a sushi platter for 2 and I eat it myself.
Wow.
It's like 30 pieces of sushi. It's so much.
What kind of sushi on there?
They have like 16 pieces, so like the fish on top of the rice.
Okay.
And then 2 rolls, and it comes with 2 salads, and I eat all of it.
Wow, beast. Yeah. Drunk, like grabbing your drunk food is like always good. I don't do it too often. Even though I feel like I'm always hungry, I'm like, you know what? I'll regret this in the morning. Like, let me just put myself to bed. But when I do, there's just nothing like a buffalo chicken slice.
You're also you're very disciplined mentally.
Yeah, I feel I have to be. Because when I get hungry, I eat so much that I'm just like, I need to like discipline myself. But that's it for the draft. Hopefully, I got a lot of crap from some friends and some fans about my movie.
What was the one tweet? There was one tweet we saw.
My movie candy selection. So hopefully my dishes do a little more favor. I got a from Jonny on every single pick. So
I'm also just starving.
Yeah. I actually like just ordered food too because I was like, I don't feel like cooking tonight. I ordered kava. Have you had kava? It's really good.
I love kava. It's so good.
It's so good.
I'm cooking tonight, but I think we should go into the week. There's 4 games this week, so it's a jam-packed week. Starting tonight, Rangers home against the Islanders.
Reverse retros.
Is it?
Yep.
Oh, really? Are the Islanders wearing theirs too?
I don't know.
Probably not. Similar colors.
Yeah.
And then the Rangers go back, or not back, but they go to Detroit Thursday, 7 p.m. puck drop, and then Saturday, Sunday. They got 3 games in 4 nights, so it's going to be a tough week for the Rangers. But Saturday, they're in Nashville, 8 p.m. Sunday, Cody's going. They're home against the Arizona Coyotes. which should be another fun game.
All right. To start off the week, I think we're gonna go on a little revenge tear after 2 rough games. Got to get a win in those reverse retros, especially since we lost the first time. So I'm gonna say this is gonna be a duel, 2-1 Rangers.
2-1 Rangers. Okay, I like that. Also, the Islanders are playing tonight, so they'll be playing the latter of back-to-back.
Okay.
So the Rangers should be able to outskate them, but
So what's your prediction?
I'm going to go, just the way they're scoring goals, I really want to say it's going to be like, 3-1, 4-1 Rangers, but I don't know if the finish is there.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know. I want to see who's starting goal for the Islanders tonight, because if it's Varlamov or Sorokin, that could change my opinion.
Okay.
So Sorokin's likely to go tonight for the Islanders, which means Varlamov will probably play against the Rangers. I think the Rangers can score on Varlamov. I'm gonna say 3-1.
3-1 Rangers. Okay.
2-1.
I said 2-1.
2-1. All right, I'm gonna say 3-1.
All right. The Wings, I'm gonna say it's gonna be a duel, and the Rangers are gonna get some revenge again. And it's gonna be the other side of the score that we just witnessed. And I'm gonna say 3-2 Rangers.
Okay. I'm gonna say
Game-winning goal by Capo Caco.
I like that. And Igor plays, or
Igor
Halak?
plays both
Okay.
games.
Igor in the Islander game, obviously. Also, I'm gonna say it's gonna be. I feel like they're gonna struggle in Detroit for some reason. I'm gonna say 2-0 Red Wings.
Okay. Preds game, I'm gonna go with Igor. I want to say Igor again, and I'll tell you why. But I feel like it might be Halak.
I think it's gonna be Halak.
The reason I say why is because the Yotes are so bad, and it might be a really good chance to get Halak his first win. But that being said, having Igor play 3 times in a row is also tough.
That's why I think it's going to be Halak.
I know.
Think 3 in a row. Yeah,
I know. But I'm wondering if they almost make him tough it out to get Halak a win against the Yotes. But maybe not. Maybe not. Because no win is given these days for these Rangers. So, all right, let's go with Halak. I do think, I hate to say it, but I do think they might struggle a little against the Predators. I know they haven't played that good to date, but their style, I think, might give the Rangers a little trouble. So I'm going to say the Rangers lose a tight one here, 4-3 to the Preds. And Halak is still winless. Poor guy.
Oh, God. I'll say the Rangers win 4-2 against the Preds.
I like it.
Yeah,
and then lastly, against the Yotes, we did have a close game last time. Igor is going to be in net. I think the Rangers rebound nicely, and I do think they find some scoring in this game. And I'm going to say the game's going to be 4-1 Rangers.
I completely agree. I was thinking 4-1 or 5-1. I'll go 4-1 Rangers.
We both think they're going to be 3-1 this week. That would be great for the team. They need to build on this chemistry, man. And listen, there's going to be changes. And it might be a slightly rocky to start, but I think these guys are going to figure it out. They're a really good team. They're top 5 team in the NHL, I would say. And I think they just gotta keep finding that groove and start scoring some goals and keep shooting, man. Like they got outshot by Detroit, and they clearly didn't shoot enough. But they just got to keep shooting the puck and play aggressive, play 60 full minutes, and I think these guys will figure it out.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I don't really have much else to say for this week, but we should note that going forward, we're trying to stick to the specific day a week, but we're going to either post episodes on Monday or on Tuesday. So we'll kind of keep you guys posted in the loop as we go, just because we want to be as up to date as possible. So if the Rangers play Sunday night, we might just record Monday, but if they play Monday night, we'll record Monday night after the game, something like that. So just bear with us on that note, but we love you guys and thank you for listening. As always, fun week ahead.
Yep. Fun week ahead. LJ. Yeah. Fun week ahead. LFGR, baby.